much for inviting me. I again, I got to meet Joan when she was living in Tucson, and I have told her recently how much I got to bear witness to her blossoming and recovery, and it's a wonderful thing to see when you've had some time in Al-Anon. So I'm very grateful to know her and to be part of your group today. Um, I grew up, oh, by the way, I'm Hannah, grateful member of Al-Anon. And I grew up in an alcoholic home. My dad was a drinker. He was a very angry person, whether he was sober or drunk. Uh, as a kid, I probably preferred drunk because then he'd be passed out and not angry. And my mom was the one who kind of kept it all together and tried to control, manage, and handle that side of the disease of alcoholism. So, um, so I grew up in a lot of fear. I describe my home life as um, living in a landmine. Like you never knew when you could just be blasted. Uh, one the rules changed every day. One day it's okay to do such and such, and next day it's not. And you were supposed to read minds because it was never communicated. Communication was just not a part of the disease of alcoholism. So I really survived by trying to be invisible and stay out of the way and be quiet and also be perfect because mistakes were not tolerated in in our home either. So uh, I um, I really fell into fantasy as a survival technique. I didn't realize that's what it was, but I was just very obsessed with fairy tales and the idea that a Prince Charming could save me from my home life. And so I became very boy crazy early on. And I craved male attention. And, I know now that I was given very poor tools to do life with as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and then an adult. And I had no self worth, and I was often in a lot of depression and suicidal. Um, and then I had a sister who was 3 years younger than me, and she committed suicide when she was 16. And it was as no mystery to me why. I mean, living in our house, there was no surprise there. And knowing that I wanted to do it, I actually was really resentful at her for doing it first. Because then I thought, she got to escape. She she got to escape this hell. I have to still live here and live in this. And I felt like I couldn't do it then. She did it first, and I couldn't do it and didn't want to put my brother through that again. So that's kind of what kept me alive um, in my earlier years. And I continued on to make different men my higher power. And as you all know, the disease of alcoholism progresses over time. And I use sex to get love. And it didn't matter if a man was married or engaged or attached or whatever. It did not matter to me as long as I got that attention. And, I look back and I go, wow, that was my primary spiritual aim, right? And I was not going to be diverted by reason, health, safety. I mean, I put myself in some dangerous, destructive positions because I wanted to achieve that primary purpose. I want the male attention. And, again, it didn't matter if I was in a relationship, I cheated in my relationships, I was the other woman in other relationships. And I just, it didn't take me until I got into program where I was so grateful that I was never caught. There were times where it was close, and I just think, I didn't even think about my safety. I didn't think about the consequences because I was just addicted to that male attention. And I'm like, people murder people over this type of thing. I'm like, 95% of Dateline stories is affairs or money. Or so I'm like, I got off so lucky. I just think, and my sponsor says, God was looking out for you. And I never even thought of that. I never thought that God was looking out for me. I thought he was out to get me all the time. So when my sponsor said that, I was just like light bulb moment. And so anyway, I continued on making men my higher power, got into failed relationship after failed relationship, and then finally one of those relationships brought me to Al-Anon. I had heard about Al-Anon from a friend of mine, and I got into Al-Anon, and I didn't care about the steps. I didn't care about the literature. I didn't want to hear the opening. I wanted to talk. I wanted to vent. That's all I wanted to do. And then I would leave and come back the next week and do the same thing. So I wasn't getting much out of Al-Anon at the time. I was getting some pain relief just by venting, but that's all I would do. And I did that for 2 years. And then I met the next higher power. He was the one. He was the one who was going to, love me and save me. So I didn't need Al-Anon. So I left. And, what I know now is that we were two very sick people, full of self-hatred, trying to give love to one another, which we didn't have it to give. So the first 6 months was cloud nine. I was floating on cloud nine, and this is the best thing ever. And then the next 6 months was the descent into hell, and it just fell apart so quickly. And he rejected me hard. He told me, that I was needy, I was pathetic, I can't even stand to look at you. I don't even want to be friends with you. And I was begging him to stay. Please stay. I'll change. I'll go back to Al-Anon and I'll change. Just stay with me through this and we'll be better. And he said no. And after some time, I thought, I've been through breakups before. I'll just find the next higher power. But this one was different. This was the bottoming out for me, because it was like, nope, there is no other. You've done this over and over again. Basically, what it is that I'm unlovable. And here's the higher power again rejecting me. So there's no hope left. Because when you make other people your higher power and they reject you, it's like I'm just smashed. I'm just squashed. And again, I become suicidal. And then I pull out a phone list from the first time I was in Al-Anon, and I call someone, and I come back to Al-Anon. On my knees. This is the difference, is because now I was ready to surrender. Now I had no hope. Now I was powerless. All right, I will do what you tell me to do. All right, I'll get a sponsor. I will, read the literature. I will go in this with the gift of desperation, because it's a matter of life and death, and it really is. I can't. I just hit that bottom. And so, so I get a sponsor, and she is, to me, she's this very prim and proper. She goes to church every Sunday like she has her whole life, and And she didn't talk religion with me. She always said higher power, and she would keep that separate from sponsoring, which was really good because, like I said, I came in with a punishing God, and I didn't. I felt like I was being targeted, and she's trying to help me in my second step. Okay, a power greater than me that could restore me to sanity. And then step three, a God of our own understanding. And so we're having this discussion about how can I find that God of my understanding when I have such this horrible view of a God in general. And we're having this discussion, and she's like, well, how do you feel about the male pronoun for a God? And I was like, oh no, men have abused me, they've used me, they've treated me like crap. I can't trust them. Um, you know, no, I am not having a male gender God. And then she's like, well, okay, what about a female? What about a she? And I'm like, oh, no, no way, because I hate women more than men. So that's out of the question. And so we really had, what this led to is we finally began with the qualities of my dogs, because I had a female dog and I had a male dog. And she said, okay, so what about your dogs? What do you love about your dogs? And I said, well, they've never hurt me. They've never used and abused me. They've always loved me unconditionally and were loyal. And, they didn't judge me. And that would be the quality of what I want for a higher power. So that's how it began. Then it began to evolve, and I could trust a higher power and turn things over, and I could believe that my higher power wants the best for me, and wants me to be happy, joyous, and free, which was such a foreign concept for me. But it was a process. And then on to step 4, and I have to do my inventory, and I'm telling my sponsor, who's prim and proper and religious, that I did all these things with men, that I put myself in these destructive, dangerous places with men, and her response was so loving, because I thought she would judge me and fire me, and she said, of course you did those things. You were desperate for love. How else would you have acted? And I was just like, oh my God, to reveal these secrets that I had so much shame around, to tell them to her, and her to respond like that, was the first seed for self-forgiveness. That, okay, I was desperate for love. How else would I have acted? And today, she took me through the Blueprint for Progress, which was a game changer in my recovery. If you know that book, I mean, leave it to Al-Anons to create this book where everything under the sun, there is no stone unturned. This is exploratory surgery in every area. And 25 chapters with 12 bazillion questions in each chapter. You're gonna do a thorough inventory, and I'm grateful that she did that with me and took me through that. Today, I love the column method of the 4th step. When I get triggered and I'm resentful at a person, place, or thing, I do the column method. I do the cause. One column is who it is or what it is, the situation, and the cause. What do I think they did? And then the next part are the triggers, the next column. And the triggers are always anger, fear, judgment, control. It goes down to self-worth. And then the 4th column is, what is my part in it? Oh, I chose to not stand up for myself, or I walked away, or I prayed, or I called my sponsor and so forth. And then I do what is a template. I have a worksheet that was given out at a convention, and it's called the 12 steps in 15 minutes. And the idea is to run all 12 steps around this particular person, place, or thing that is bothering me. And step 5 asks the question, what are the core beliefs that cause me grief? And there's always two. There's always two things, no matter what. And the first one is, if she, he, they, it would behave the way I want them to, then I'd be okay. That's what causes me my unmanageability, my resentment, my chaos. The second thing is, I am not blank enough, pretty enough, smart enough, whatever enough. And then I get to look at step 2. My sponsor always says, what have you come to believe in? Oh yeah, God restores me to sanity, not whether Bob drives correctly, or the gas prices are such, or he does this the way I want him to, or the government does that, or my employer. I forget that every day, that, oh yeah, that's the core belief that causes me grief, when I have expectations that everything outside of me should be a certain way, the way I want them to be. I'll never get peace. I'll never have serenity. But what I've realized is that there's that difference, right? It's like, if everything is going well, everyone's behaving the way I want them to, my buttons are not being pushed. Is that true sanity? No, it just means my buttons aren't being pushed. And man, I work a great program when everyone's behaving the way I want them to. I work a great program when I'm alone and not around anyone. I work a great program when my buttons aren't being pushed. But the true sanity is, can I be happy whether or not the alcoholic is drinking or not? I can be happy whether so and so is driving the way or not. I can be happy whether this is happening or not. That's where I want to aspire to, because that's where the true serenity lies for me. So I am so grateful for these tools that I have. And I get to look back and go, the first time I was in Al-Anon, I got pain relief. Now that I really have stayed and worked the steps and follow the suggestions of this program and use these tools in my life, I get more than just some pain relief. I get to live happy, joyous, and free today. I still have moments, I still have slips, but I come back to the tools of the program, because, the steps help me find a relationship with myself and my higher power. The traditions help me play nice in the sandbox with you guys. I heard someone said, the traditions help me from killing people, from homicide, and the concepts help me to work, how do I move through the world? And, before Al-Anon, I came to believe that Hannah could restore Hannah to sanity. I turned my will and my life over to Hannah every day. I thought Hannah could remove Hannah's character defects by forcing solutions. And I was my own higher power running my life. Now that's freaking scary. I don't want to be back there again, because my life went down in flames. That's what brought me to Al-Anon, is because I was my own higher power. And I have to remember that I don't want that to be the case anymore. I remember what that was like. And, there's a wonderful saying that I heard in the rooms that says, I want to, instead of living in the world and visiting Al-Anon, I want to live in Al-Anon and visit the world because the world is crazy. It's insane. I want that spiritual home base where I can find my peace and serenity. So, this is the magic of the program for me, and this is the hope that the program offers to newcomers. And it's so wonderful to be here. With that, I'll close. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your meeting today.